Well, it's another weird episode.
I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page. Genre: erotic horror.
Ooh.
Presented by
Sexy.
Terence Stamp and David Bowie. Sorry, David Bowie.
That's the thing. So he's not in it until the second season.
No,
You have to get through all of season 1.
Oh, fuck that! I was disappointed that I wasn't seeing Bowie because I'm a big David Bowie fan. But never mind. So we're recording this again on Halloween. So that's fitting that we've got 2 horror shows to talk about. I'm also drinking, as we just had a quick conversation about, a lovely glass of Blood of Christ. 19 Crimes varietal, and it's fucking delicious.
Yeah. But by the time you hear this, we had a lovely Valentine's Day.
God, if it's Valentine's Day, we're very, very near the appearance of Baby Duck at this point.
Well, currently, day of release is the end of February.
Oh, okay, so yeah. Oh, 28th. Yeah, okay, so that means yesterday was the due date. So...
welcome to the world, Baby Duck. Or, God
Or
damn
not.
it, why are you so late, Baby Duck?
Or, why did you come out early? God, that's weird. When this goes out, there's every chance that Baby Duck's here. That's really weird. Well, what an episode to make an entrance. Your dad's about to start talking about women getting stabbed with swords and showing tets.
Well, I mean, better to prepare for what you're actually like.
This is the shit you're into, is it? Oh. Can I have a different dad? No. I genuinely don't know where to start with this. So we've got Fear Itself,
Well, I guess
or The Hunger.
which one? We can go with how The Hunger came into even
Oh
our
my
minds.
god! Yes, this is very, very strange. At what point? Has The Hunger been on the list for a while? Shows to
It has
watch?
been there since Jack got the keys.
Oh, okay. So that was what prompted it, is it?
Oh, I added it to the list.
Right, I thought it was
While I
just
was at your house.
right, I thought it was a weird confluence of just like, oh, that's weird.
Oh no,
So-
absolutely not. I was like, that is the weirdest sounding TV show I've we've watched some shit and some weird stuff, but this was a thing that was like, do you want sexy horror? I can give you sexy horror. And then sure.
Yeah, I now have some stuff to Google. Right, so regular listeners might be aware, we have a friend called Jack. He has recently, or he did recently, last year, around Halloween, before Halloween, moved nearer to where me and Lise live. And apart from a fucking mess, the only other thing that was left by the previous owner of the house he bought was a DVD box set of The Hunger, which on the back I think was described as, it contains, as you say, erotic horror, but also Daniel Craig. It was like,
That's the thing. It's like the people who appear across it. It's
people who go on to do big stuff.
it is really a who's who of British, even maybe just European film.
Well, I mean, Tim Spall's in it. I mean, he was already established by that point, I think. Lena Headey, Daniel Craig. I'm basically just reading out the names I recognise. Colin Ferguson. Who else have we got? Yeah,
I'm getting a bit further down this list. And I'm
I'm like...
not so many people that I recognise
There
now.
you go. Giancarlo Esposito. We know him.
Yes.
Radio Raheem himself. So there's quite... Basically, it was just... people coming through and getting involved in some erotic horror. Right, so is she a vampire in this one?
I don't know. I don't think it's...
Because, right, here's a question. What the fuck was the point in this story?
Well, I think it's more of a... almost like sort of the... gypsy spell curse sort of folklore sort of thing, where because she was talking about how like someone came up and was like, "Oh, you've been blessed. Don't break the spell. Don't fucking break the spell." No idea what the spell was, but I'm assuming that it's the first time she said "I love you" it has to be to not a shit bag, and she fucked it, and then got stabbed, and has the wateriest blood I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we should explain. It involves.
I think I've covered all the points.
Well, no, there's a club where she survives being stabbed with swords. We didn't say that.
Oh yeah, it's like I think a play on the like contortionists in a barrel, like dodging the swords.
Yeah, I tell you what was weird at the point where so they're at the club and the guy who runs it goes, "Hey, look, check this out," and runs a sword through her, and she's like, "Yeah, this is fine," and then he invites somebody up from the audience to come and have a go, and he goes, "You can stab her absolutely anywhere you like," and he's like, "Okay, fine," and stabs her in exactly the same space. I'm like, oh, well, I thought the whole point was to show that.
Well, it's like you can stab her anywhere in like this section of her body, because I think he's probably not risking stabbing her through the eye. But yeah, it is. It's just fucking weird. And actually quite shit. Like, I mean, I wasn't expecting a huge amount from horror porn, but I don't know. I've just out of the corner of my eye seen stories tend to focus on self-destructive themes, desire and obsession, with a strong component of softcore erotica. Popular tropes for the stories include cannibalism, vampires, sex, and poison.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a good time to me.
Well, that's the thing. I assumed that he was a vampire, and that was going to be the whole thing.
Yeah, I think because vampires are so linked to sex in horror. Because they're all quite, well, not all of them, but there's like a focus on sensuality and, you know, biting someone's neck that could be seen. You could argue that's quite an intimate act, even if that is to kill them or take blood from them. And a lot of it's about repression and forbidden wants and all that sort of thing. So I think that's why I just sort of assumed they were all vampires.
And it's, I think, quite a lot of, I don't know if it's a traditional trope or it's a new vampire trope, but it's very like love trapping people and basically being like, no, you should, like, they're very predatory in the same way that we're like, so they're trying to get people to fall for them rather than, and come with them willingly rather than like abducting them.
I mean, it's like, there's a whole thing about, you know, the thrall of a vampire. Like, they're supposed to be, you know, these seductive people, or at least like enticing. They're supposed to be enticing, aren't they? I guess. But yeah, I just like it's an anthology series, which, you know, we are generally speaking fans of that sort of thing, because I think it forces the medium of half an hour to tell a story to get quite creative. If you just get a bunch of writers and you go, right, we need some erotic horror stories, you've got half an hour, your restriction is, you know, whatever locations or whatever budget we can give you, which is not going to be a lot, go and do a thing, then, you know, you get some, you know, you're going to get some good stuff. Obviously, with any sort of portmanteau or anthology thing, you're going to get a variation in quality. They're not all going to be brilliant, and they're not all going to be awful. Some will be better than others. But I quite like that. But this did get me thinking. Apart from Inside Number 9, which is probably like the top flight sort of anthology show you can get in modern TV.
I mean, especially in this genre as well, where it's a bit darker.
Are there any others that you can think of? Or does that anthology series, is there still a place for it? Because I wonder how much of it is tied to trying to keep people watching on a terrestrial TV basis, of going, okay, each episode is different, so you sit down on a Friday night at 9 o'clock to watch, what's the new the Hunger episode about? We know it's going to have some level of sex and violence in it. What's the next one? Is that as big of a thing when we can watch anything at any time?
I think it's hard. Like, it's not a format that works well for it. Works well for Black Mirror.
Yeah. Okay. No. There you go. That's a good point. Yeah. That's probably like the.
But Black
most,
Mirrors,
the
they're
biggest
not. The Black Mirrors aren't. It's not like a. Oh, let's see what it is this week. They're like them coming out, sort of an event.
Yeah.
So
there-
actually, I find it's the same with Inside Number 9. That although I'm normally like a couple years behind, like they're still when they're coming. Like you're like, oh.
See, you say that, but for me, that's the only appointment to watch TV I have now is when there's a new episode of Inside Number 9 and I have to wait a week in between each one. That is the only thing that I'm like, when that's on, we watch it the whole time. Other than like Gogglebox, but even that, it's like, oh, if we miss it, it's not the end of the world. But Inside Number 9, I'd watch it religiously.
Yeah, but was it Quantum Leap that was a similar sort of premise?
I don't know much about Quantum Leap. It's like it's a different time zone each time, isn't it? It's a different period of time that he goes to, is it?
Oh, it's the same guy going to multiple different time periods.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm struggling because like anthology series, I suppose, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, where they're telling a different story every week, not necessarily with a rotating cast, but like that. I think it lends itself a lot better to horror than it does to most other genres.
I think that's probably because horror is at its best when it's punchy and when it's a short story. Is because it's like you set up a thing, you give a big scare, and then, you know, that's it. Everybody goes
Resolve
home.
it or don't.
Yeah. I don't. There's not really. Is there a? You know, could you do a rom-com in that time? Could you do? Well, you probably could do a sci-fi story, but again, I think it does lend itself to genre, doesn't it? You couldn't do like a soap story, like a kitchen. I mean, you probably could do.
Yeah, I suppose almost Doctor Who almost follows the format, except that it's got generally a character or two that are consistent throughout, and they tell an overarching story, but generally episode by episode, it's very different stories. Sort of the same story, like turn up, bad guys are doing stuff, run, resolve.
Screwdriver. There we go.
Get in the TARDIS, click your fingers, jobs are good.
Yeah.
So while Formula 8, they are almost anthology-esque, but not true anthology series.
Yeah. I have a real soft spot for anthology things. So yeah,
This one?
Not this one, but because let me tell you, I didn't give a shit. Like, I thought that there's not a nice character in it, and for horror to really work, well, for any story,
You have to have someone to root for.
You don't even have to have someone to root for. You just have to have someone to relate to. Like, you don't have to like your main character, but you do have to like care what happens to them. Not like in either way, not like care because, oh, I want them to be okay. You can hope that something really awful happens to them. But I just didn't with this lot. I thought it was quite something, right? Just to completely
also, I've got a real quick question. One, about how they wasted Timothy Spall in this. And two, what the fuck was all of the like makeup conference about? And how did it add to the story?
Yeah, I thought that was gonna be related to, you know, what they were doing or something. Like, she's the spell that she's under that stops her being able to feel the swords or whatever is somehow gonna come into like, oh, okay, well, we've made this makeup based on this particular set of cells that we've got from an undisclosed location that can rejuvenate and all that sort of thing. It doesn't fucking go anywhere, does it?
No, well, it introduces him to the two gay characters that he hates. And the thing, like, as soon as he was like, oh, guys, give it a rest, I was like, oh, get off my screen.
Yeah.
And then their story really, well, I suppose he gets headbutted by the cunt who stabs the lady.
Is that the guy? Right, so
badly.
just really quickly, that guy, is that Derek from EastEnders?
Yeah, it is.
I thought it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not. I'm not going to say he's typecast, but all the characters I've seen him play are cunts.
Hard bastards.
Yeah, proper geezers. But in this one, he stabs a lady with swords, so not.
It's not
But
great
yeah,
look,
it's-
is it?
No, it's just a bit like. I mean, all of his interactions where he's just. Well, he's not even like just stabbing. He's also pimping her out.
You imagine him coming home, like, oh, got another job. Oh yeah, what's that? I got to stab a lady with swords.
You'll never guess who I found in the far reaches of the world. I found a lady I can stab. How did you find that out, mate? I don't want to answer your questions, but
Don't
we
worry about
had a night, and I was done, and it's easier to stab than to pay. But this bitch, oh god, she just won't die. So I'm going to stab her every night on stage and ask a bunch of people to do it until she fucks one of them, says I love you, and then dies. It's just...
I mean, that is largely what happens. So
Yeah, it's quite an easy plot to summarise, isn't it? The thing, like, there's a bit of me that is curious to see some of the other episodes. But this is not a good introduction.
No, I wonder if maybe we should like Google like what's the best ones and then just pick them out and watch those.
I think it's probably going to be a... What did Daniel Craig do in 1997? Because that
Because that's
can't be
literally-
long before Layer Cake.
Well, Layer Cake was 2004. I think he did the Tomb Raider film before that. I don't really know what else he did or has done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm reading the synopsis of it. A young nurse is hired as a living caretaker for an older woman who lives with her younger, good-looking handyman.
I think he might be the younger, good-looking handyman. I think the young nurse might be Lena Headey as well.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I might maybe just go through and watch the episodes with people that I recognise them in.
Yeah, it's not a bad show. I mean, we know someone who has a DVD.
Yeah. That's true. But the thing, I can't bring myself to tell him that it's shit.
Maybe we should just like big it up and just be like, oh no, you'll love it. You'll really, really like it. Particularly the first one.
The first 5 minutes, it's just openly homophobic.
Yeah, you'll love it. It reminds you of school. Something that did really bother me, and I don't know. I don't like kicking something when it's down, Christ. But the bits with Terence Stamp, where he's sort of like he's supposed to be this narrator character, and he's like or host, I guess, maybe like a horror host.
Quite a difficult job, isn't it?
Did you?
I wasn't sure that
fucking
was...
love that.
I thought it was just part of the intro. I didn't find it additive.
No, I don't think it does. It doesn't do anything. But the point I was going to make, did you think like it was like they decided to do that bit last minute and they just recorded it on sort of a mini DV camera and just used that camera to record the audio? Like the audio was so bad and so amateur.
The thing,
On those
what I
bits.
imagine that scene, if you just heard the audio, it's old guy, armchair, miles back from the camera, but they're still recording from the camera's point of view, so it's just a bit quiet. That's what my head pictures, not the fucking techno copyright advert that is the introduction to this show.
It does make me want to watch, just see what Bowie did with it. Like, I really would like to see how Bowie introduces it. I wonder if that box set that Jack's got is the full thing or just series
It's only
one.
season 1, I think.
Is it? That's a shame. We're gonna have to get our hands on Bowie doing that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. There are 44. Also, season 2 is not on Prime either.
Oh, what? Okay, well, we're gonna have to hunt that down. We'll have to find that somewhere. Someone will have it somewhere. It will be on a 2007 YouTube video upload. Yes, I'm looking for it now. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I've really got left to say is I might watch 1 or 2 of my episodes, but I'm not really. I can't recommend it.
No, not at all. But I'm intrigued. I will see how David Bowie introduces stuff, and I will watch the Daniel Craig one. Maybe we can do that this weekend when you come to. I mean, maybe we could have done that on your birthday weekend last year.
Yes.
But yeah, like, fair enough, because it's fucking weird, but it's like horror stuff, and anything that's horror, I will enjoy being on the telly. So that's absolutely fine. Speaking of weird portmanteau horror TV shows,
with incredibly techno intros. Well, grungy intros.
so this is what happens. So like, you text me saying, "Oh, the intro of this show reminds me of that you wouldn't steal a car advert," and I said, "Yeah, I totally get what you mean," but then it turns out we were watching different shows.
Yeah. Well, the one you were watching had much better music. But yeah, Fear itself.
Very, very peculiar little show.
Yeah.
It's
a horror anthology series. So you know,
apparently
like we've really nailed the tangible link between these two shows.
Oh yeah. This came out of the Masters of Horror series that Mick Garris was in control of. I don't know if you know who Mick Garris is. He's done a bunch of Stephen King adaptations. He's like quite a famous horror director. Like, he did Hocus Pocus as well, and one of the Critters movies, and a bunch of stuff. He has just announced that his long-running podcast is coming to an end, and it's a podcast that I've listened to for a few years now. It's actually like, it's pretty good. He's a very softly spoken, very nice guy, and it basically it feels like it's just a continuation of Masters of Horror. So Masters of Horror was this TV show where he essentially, it seems like he corralled a bunch of like big horror directors to make effectively like short stories. So that includes like John Carpenter, who you'll know from Halloween and The Thing. Larry Cohen, Don Coscarelli, who did Phantasm, Joe Dante, who did Gremlins, Guillermo del Toro, who obviously did Pan's Labyrinth and all the other stuff, Stuart Gordon, who did Reanimator, Toby Hooper, who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, John Landis, who did American Werewolf in London, and then a bunch of other people. Like, he tried getting Wes Craven, David Cronenberg, all this, basically all the big horror directors. He was like, let's just do an anthology series, and that went for 2 series, and then this came out after it. That's the story of Fear itself. So the first episode of that is this episode, The Sacrifice, which is all about 4 criminals they've robbed something. I can't remember where it is they've robbed something, and they hole up.
Well, it's very
in a
like
farmhouse.
Reservoir Dogs, but Canada.
Yeah, they say please after everything.
Although, except like, so you know the guy who's been shot.
Yes.
When you see like the wound, I think he should have been dead, because that looked very much like it just went through the center of his chest.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be fair. That's not the most unrealistic thing we're going to come up against in this episode.
No, well, it sort of actually looked like it was ready to receive a steak.
I'll tell you what I didn't like. Some of the names of the characters, Point and Lemon.
Yeah, well, I mean, he kept trying to tell people what lemon was short for, but I don't remember.
No, I can't remember now. I only watched it earlier today as well. I was slightly distracted by the fucking Gribbly in the basement.
Yeah, well, I assumed they were like cover names, but
Yeah.
when Lemon starts going on about like, no, it's Lemon, it's short for blah 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 blah. That's actually my granddad's name, so I'm blah 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 the third. I'm like, don't fucking care, mate. Just go rob a train, kill a kid, do all the stuff you're good at. But I actually quite enjoyed it.
I thought it was just a fucking laugh. And let me tell you, if I'd watched this when it was originally going out in 2008, I would have been obsessed with this show. Like, it
You still can be if you want.
Well, I'm a bit older now. But
More
like
jaded.
as I was just getting into horror was around this time. So if I'd known this was a thing and had access to this, I would have absolutely loved watching this show. So I'm kind of gutted I didn't know anything about it until like a week ago.
Yeah. So once they get inside the fort, how long was it before you realised that they might not be the problem? Well, they are part of the problem, but not the actual threat.
It was pretty recent. Like not recent, but it's quite soon after. I was like, because it almost reads like a fairy tale, isn't it? Like, there's three sisters who live up on a hill or whatever.
So I thought they might have been. I suppose, in a technical sense, they are sirens to an extent, but I thought it might have been like the monster sirens rather than just, lure you to your death or lull you into a false sense of security that ultimately leads to you being locked in a pit and dying. But yeah, I thought they might have been the monsters, and then it wasn't until about like halfway through where I was like, "Oh shit, no, I don't think they are." Like when one of them is sewing up one of the guys' mouths, I was like, "Oh, that's probably not great." But yeah, like it then just descends into, oh fuck, there's a fucking vampire in the basement. I thought the vampire actually looked pretty cool, and I really liked that. You have the scene of it being upside down and crawling down the guy's body. Yeah,
that was awesome. That was genuine. I was like, okay, that's really cool. Yeah,
and I quite liked that it did away with the, like, it was sort of the, if you're bitten by a vampire, you will become a vampire, not the. I think it's the classic Dracula one where you have to then drink the vampire's blood to fully turn rather than just die. Or is that not part of the Dracula's mythos?
I don't actually know, to be honest, because like there is always that weird thing of like, yeah, you got bitten, but like in some of them it's like, okay, that means you are a vampire, but in other ones it's like, yeah, but really technically you have to drink their blood too. So I think the implication with Dracula is that he just bites and then you get turned.
Yeah, because I think it's a way that makes the most sense. But yeah, I mean, it leads to some quite, I guess, sort of like the emotional side of the episode is where he has to like kill his brother.
Yeah, it's not that emotional though, because he makes that decision quite quickly.
Well, in his defense, at that point, his brother is trying to kill him.
Yeah. Here's the bit that I thought it struck me as slightly odd, is that you've got one of the sisters who's been bitten, and there's not a conversation around it, but it's like there's a decision made that, okay, well, that sister is just going to be bait to distract the vampire as the others escape. That conversation doesn't happen. It's just it's just a thing that happens.
I think in my just giving it extra lore that it might not deserve, I have assumed that they've had that conversation before. They're like, if one of us ever gets bitten, it's into the kiln. And then, so my only real issue with this is how easy it was to trick the vampire into the big fire pit, lock the door, and kill it.
Yeah, it's like, why haven't you done this previously? Because that was quite simple.
Because like anyone could have done that with the first passerby. Or even just been like, yo, Dad, take one for the team. Get in the fucking hole. But
we'll leave and we'll say no more about it.
I did really sort of enjoy the end where she's just like, I'm going to finally see the world. And then, I don't know why I think she notices the blood and then checks, and it turns out he's been bitten.
Yeah.
And like a cunt didn't mention it. And then she's just like, well, I guess I'm going to have to keep this one alive. There's not enough of us here to trick him into the fucking pit.
See, that one I was like, why aren't you the other? Because she looks at him and goes, "Oh, for fuck's sake," and shuts the door. It's like,
Stake him.
why didn't you just go the other side of the door and then shut it and then just fuck off?
I think I quite like the idea that because in their myth, like history, they feel responsible that the vampire came with them from Romania to America or Canada. It's not really clear. I know it's filmed
shot
in Canada,
Edmonton. So yeah,
but so that they feel that sort of duty bound to protect the world from it, and they're like, we've been doing this for donkeys, and I quite like that sort of feeling of responsibility they have to feed this vampire, not kill it, because obviously it would have been much more difficult when there were more of them. Which I think the only real issue I have with it is that they hadn't already killed the vampire when it was clearly quite fucking easy. But I quite like that that's the choice that she made at the end, where she was like, well, I guess I'm not going to see the world. But I think there was that sort of, like, the line that's meant to, I think, really tug on your heartstrings is like, we're protecting a world that we've never seen.
Yeah.
Because I think that's sort
quite
of
a good line.
Implies that they've been born and raised there always to defend the world from the one vampire that's there. What I would have liked is if she'd managed to get out into the wild world and realised that there were very few people left. And in fact, everyone was vampires, because there wasn't just one in Romania. There were a bunch.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty fun. And like I said, had I seen this at the time that I was just getting into horror stuff, I'd have been all over this. So yeah. I would be quite interested to see some more of this. What I would be really intrigued to see is this Masters of Horror thing with all these big horror directors. That I'd be very, very keen to see all those.
Yeah, add it to the list.
The trouble is, it looks like it's another one of these that you can't get in this country.
Where there's a will.
Yeah, we'll have to find a way around that, I reckon. Yeah, I did quite like this one. I like this one a lot more than I liked fucking The Hunger, but I'm intrigued to see what the Daniel Craig.
Yeah, I've just been looking through some of the cast members that they've managed to get on this, and I'm like, I'm going to watch some more of this, I think. I've got Brandon Routh, a Superman's here. Anna Kendrick's in one of the episodes.
I think that one didn't get aired. I thought I saw somewhere.
That is irritating, because that's an episode that I quite want to watch. Well, it is what it is, but like, yeah, I'll see what. It might have appeared on the internet somewhere. Sometimes these things leak.
We'll find it. I'm sure we will. So we're getting our chef on in the next episode.
Oh yes.
What have we got? We got Stephen Graham's not in the TV show, is he? He's in the film of Boiling Point, but I don't think he's in the TV show. He's
definitely in the thumbnail on iPlayer.
Is that for the film though, or is that for the show?
No, that's for the show.
Oh, so he might be in it. Okay, well that would be good if he is. And also The Bear is the other one we're doing, which I've heard is really, really good. So I'm looking.
Yeah, I really like The Bear.
Oh, you've seen it already, have you?
All of it, all 2 seasons.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to having a new show that's going to make me hungry and watch it. Make me hungry while I'm watching it.
Yeah, I've just noticed Trevor from GTA 5's in this as well. In Boiling Point.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be worried, wouldn't you, if Trevor from GTA serving you dinner? You'd be like, well, what the fuck's in this?
I saw a fan interaction of him. Like, someone just goes, like, with a Comic-Con thing, just goes, "Can you come tell me to fuck off?"
Oh, is that the thing where he comes down off the stage?
Yeah, rather than doing it from the stage, he like runs at him and just grabs the camera and like it's quite entertaining.
I remember seeing that a while ago. That was good.
Yes, I'm sure we'll talk about him next time.
When we're not talking about sexy horror.
Oh, God damn it, no more sexy horror for you.